Welcome to Home's Room. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin. Welcome back to another episode of Home's Room. This is a special episode, especially because it happened to be a weird goal that I didn't see originally, but now it's like, man, I might as well just do it. And that's 52 straight episodes dropping in a row, no missed weeks. And I couldn't think of a good idea for like what that episode should be, because it's kind of a birthday, but also this thing grew organically. And then it hit me like the crushing weight of the ocean. I wonder if you can guess where we're going. And by that laugh, you can tell my co-host is also here.
Hi, friends. It's Caitlin. What's up? This is a different format from the first interview that Matt had with Simo. But hi, it's here, Caitlin, your wonderful co-host. And 52 weeks later, I'm just happy to be along on the journey and here to interview our new friend that I was happily able to creep on her Instagram a lot earlier today.
Nice.
So,
Glad you
with
did
no
your
further
research.
ado, welcome, Simo. How are you?
I'm
Welcome
good.
back.
I'm so excited that I got to be the first guest on this show and that I get an anniversary episode. This is so legit.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. One of the things that I really loved is like, not only were you the first interview for the show, you were like my first audio interview like ever.
Nice.
So I was super happy you took it easy on me. Like I said, you were concussed then, and I felt real bad.
I had
Wait a
gotten in
minute.
car-
You were concussed?
Yeah, I had gotten in a head-on car collision 2 weeks earlier. And I'm weird when I'm sick or I'm injured. Like, I always just have adrenaline and I'm just like, I need to do stuff. And I remember I was like, I couldn't look at the computer and edit like I do all the time because just I couldn't even, I had to watch TV from across the room and with sunglasses on.
Oh my
And
God.
so when Matt was like, you want to do an interview? I was just like, I can't do anything else right now. So yeah, let's do it.
All right, I don't want anybody to question our dedication to our Home's Room listeners, but you know, Matt and I have showed up in sickness and in health. We've shown up in all kinds of different situations. We have never shown up post-concussion, Simo. So I'm really excited that that's something that you decided to launch into. Because holy shit, that's awesome!
Glad to take one for the team. I'm always here.
I appreciated that. But yeah, so like I said, this is a 1 year later episode, and a lot has happened in that year for both the podcast and you. And one of the things that like I just want to say first, and like I am super appreciative that you took the time to do this. Number one. Number two, I'm going to try and say like way less in this interview than I did in that first one, because that bugged the ever-loving crap out of me. I still do it. I've given myself some grace for it, but it is the most listened to episode we have, and that could be because it's the very first one, so that's where people start, or you could look at it how I look at it, that even this long after, with all of the episodes that we have and all the different people that we've talked to, this episode, this interview with you is not only the most listened to, but one of the ones I get the most feedback on. People are like, man, they said like this thing, and it just like sat with me, or I had to pause and go back, or I had to like sit and like digest some of what you said, because I just wasn't I didn't know what to expect, but I wasn't expecting that. So your words hit people's ear holes really well.
That's amazing. I want to hear what feedback we got. That's yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
One of the things that you said, I will not quote this one because I don't have the quote, but I remember it distinctly. You and I talked about roller derby, and you're a roller derby person. I'm a roller derby person. And you talked about like the organicness of the way they teach you the sport, and the first thing they do is teach you how to fall.
Teach you how to fall.
That one thing, so many people responded with that. I never thought of Derby that way. And obviously we both probably know a lot of Derby people. So anybody Derby related, that was their first like huge takeaway where they're like, I had to listen to that like 5 times before I like, it just like hit me like, man, that is a really good metaphor for life. So,
Right, exactly.
I listened to that interview today just because I wanted to get back into like, what did we talk about? What things, like what was the vibe like? And I can't help but ask now, like, are you still as jazzed about having been a guest then as you are now being a guest?
I'm probably more jazzed now, but I'm able to take it in a little bit better because I'm not concussed now. But no, like after listening to like other episodes of your guys' show, like especially when you came on, Caitlin, like, oh man, I wish I could think of a specific moment that you guys were talking about something, but it was something very serious and intense and probably had to do with like women's issues because that's something that I think about like all the time. Oh man, I wish I could tell you like which podcast it was, or which episode it was, but it might come back to me. But now that I've seen you guys like kind of get your traction and the discussions, and it makes such a difference with you guys being able to like have 2 different viewpoints. Like I think I'm more jazzed now.
Good. That's one of those things. I don't know. I'll defer to you, Caitlin, on that one. But like, I sought out when I created this, or I wanted to have somebody that had a different viewpoint than me, that balanced me in a way that like 2 guys can't have that conversation. 2 similar viewed people can't have that conversation. It takes different perspectives, different views on like life in general, and 2 completely different but open like communicators to have the like dynamic we have. So I'm appreciative of that. But what do you think, Caitlin?
No, I totally agree. And I think we've had some like grounding conversations about topics that we want to approach. And usually they all end up in what are the topics that are going to get us the most pissed off and animated? Those are probably going to be the best episodes of the podcast. So I really appreciate that, Sibo, because we've taken a lot of care in the last year that I've been involved in to have those more convoluted conversations about topics that maybe people shy away from or don't want to have an extended conversation about. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that because I definitely feel that. I still so much I'm thankful that you are inviting me along for the ride, Matt, and here we are.
Yeah.
That'll make for good success. I gotta give credit to somebody on TikTok that I heard this from, but they were just like just talking about being in entertainment and getting any kind of attention. She didn't say that you need to be controversial because some people just do that in order to like pick at people and just have that resonance, which is kind of negative. But she said that you have to be willing to like what did she say? Sorry. It wasn't controversy. Trigger people. You got to be willing to trigger people. Like just like don't search out controversy on purpose in that negative way, but be willing to trigger people because that it really is what turns people's brains on. Like no matter what their viewpoint falls on it.
Yeah. I gave Caitlin that same feedback. Somebody messaged with like some stupid, well, I didn't agree with the way that you said this. And to me, while that may be hurtful to get, or that may be like sad to like, oh, somebody didn't, that was negative. It's like, I look at it as a positive is that person was listening so intently that they were like, I am compelled to message you and be like, I disagree.
Right.
That means we're doing our job.
Right.
And we've always said here at Homes Room, we're happy to receive any and all feedback, good, bad, indifferent, comments, supports, whatever. If there's somebody that feels so compelled to go out of their way to tell us that both of us or either of us had an opinion that they don't agree with, that means that they were paying close enough attention to have a differing opinion. And maybe that was an opinion that was not represented in our initial conversation. So we're always very happy to get that back.
So I got another question for you. All right. You were on the podcast, and then at that time you were working on your new feature. You were also getting like kind of nostalgic for Pink Elephant, and then you did the thing that I was like waiting for. You recut it and got really jazzed about recutting it, and then you dropped it. I watched it, and just seeing that energy from you, like 1 year later, how did Home's Room affect that part of it? Did it re-inspire you, or did you just
It honestly did, and it was a big sign. Like, it was just the fact that you asked me about Pink Elephant so much. I saw it as a huge omen. I'm a big, like, searching for signs person, and I'm always just like, and also I'm just like a super Aquarius, so I have to like double down on my existentialism about everything that's ever happening. But yeah, that really did like re-enlighten me because what had happened was so when I moved to LA, I kind of gave up my videography business because I got this really good camera gig. And it just took care of me in a way that like I could just be, I call it lazy just because I'm just used to being an entrepreneur. So if I'm not doing like everything, I'm just like, oh, this is a lazy job because I'm only doing one position. But they ended up going out of business and everybody I know just lost their jobs overnight. That was a couple months before I did that interview. And everything was pointing towards this huge, like, the universe was just like, we're going to force you to do your own art. And in my mind, I was just like, in this capitalist, like, hellscape, that's so impractical. That's the most impractical thing that could possibly happen. And it ended up being like, it's been the most stressful year, but I've gotten the best stuff out of my art and my life out of it. And everything kept pointing me to look at Pink Elephant again. And I had truly just shelved it. And I kept thinking of it like every time I showed it to somebody, like I've only shown it to maybe like some actor friends that I've made here. And I'm just like, this is my first thing. This is my first thing. And I just cringe at certain parts. And then I just got to the point that everything I was applying to just nothing was panning out. All I was doing was just like running this Airbnb out of my house, and I was just like, all right, so I've really got nothing else to do. And I've got so many signs about Pink Elephant. I don't know why, but I just realized that I never actually printed it out in 4K because when I finished, I'd shot it in 4K, but my cameras were way more powerful than the computer hardware that I had at the time. So I ended up just printing it out in 1080, I think. It might have even been less than that. And I was just like, oh, well, I've had a computer that's that powerful to do 4K for a couple years, and I just didn't want to look at it because I didn't want to cringe. And when I opened the project back up, I was just like, you know what? I've got time. If I cut this first scene like in half, the movie's going to move so much faster. And then all of a sudden I was just like, there's a lot more I can do on this shit. I'm going to look at this whole movie. So I really went through every folder. Don't ever throw away any of your art, like any of your work. Like
Can confirm.
I knew that I was like, there's no reason why I should ever throw away any of the raw files of this. And I kept everything. And I went through every single thing, just making sure, because it had been 5 years since I finished it and nobody helped me on it. I was the head of every department, and all of my heroes and everybody that I'm looking at now, nobody I know has done that. Nobody's been the head of camera, directing, writing, production design, everything. And I was just like pulling that out of my ass as I flew on that movie. And then after that, just used that equipment to give myself like a little videography career. And then when I came back and looked at the movie, I was just like, wow, I didn't even realize how much I've grown, how much I've learned in the last 5 years, like, I'm massive now. I was just like, now I can go back and be the help that I needed back then. And so I just like I recolored a lot of it. Like, that's one of the things that I became really good at was, coloring. I had learned a lot that there's not a lot of exposition that needs to be done, so there's a lot of stuff that got cut out. There's a lot of stuff that I thought was cringy that I had to put back in because I had been really self-conscious about my special effects makeup just because it didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. And your art is never gonna look like you didn't make it. And so that's what you're when you see your stuff and you're just like, it's probably because it just looks like you did it and you've never seen anything like that before. But if you take years off and step back from it, it looks very different. And I was able to be fortunate enough to actually have that like vantage point. And so yeah, I went through, recut the entire thing, and then it was so meant to be because immediately, like, I think within 2 months I got like 17,000 views on YouTube, which I was not expecting. It's in the middle of it's licensed to like six platforms right now, or I actually haven't checked in a week. It's not up yet. It might be by the time this airs, but it got licensed to it. Like, people were responding to it like in a professional distribution sense way better than they were the first time I made it. And I was like, I'm so glad nobody actually saw this the
Hell
first
yeah.
time around, because I actually got my second chance. And then it also, just doing that, I was just like, okay. So another thing I've been putting off because of self-consciousness for years was the making of, because what I wanted to do with that was to show people that you really can make a movie from nothing. And I wanted to explain exactly how we did that. And I put that off for years. Like, when I had my comfortable job last year, I was never going to do that. I came home from work every day and I was just like, oh, I'm tired and I'm participating in capitalism. So I did the right thing. And then when the universe just forced me to have nothing to do, I was just like, you literally have no excuse. Like, you have to do this now. And so I was just like, this might actually make a difference if I can explain to people. And I actually have started to find a little bit of momentum in an audience that are just like, I didn't know that people didn't know that you really can make a movie for nothing. Like, people are just like, I don't know where to start. I'm just like, to me, it's so easy because I'm so ambitious and overachieving. But I was just like, now I can actually go through and show people exactly that this is possible and you don't need to be given permission to do your work.
And that's why you're a perfect guest here, is because that's what we were talking about the first time around, is no fucking gatekeepers. You want to do something, go do it. And I
Right.
love that is what you're doing now. And I was going to ask you about those, just because, like, I've enjoyed watching them. And, like, just like then it's like my when I do laundry, like, I watched your whatever's currently up on YouTube for, like, either the week before or the week current, wherever I'm at, and I love that. So
I love how you always watch my stuff when you're doing laundry. I don't know why. That's so funny to me.
it's just, it's like, I'm stuck here. I can't go anywhere. At least let me make this enjoyable. Let me put on something that's going to be, like, distracting and good.
That's why I do the same thing. I'm always just like, I need a good movie. Like, I need like a thinker while I do laundry. Like, it's a event for me too.
So, specific to Pink Elephant, I'm sitting here looking at your YouTube channel, looking exactly at the video that you're talking about with almost 17,200 views. Amazing. What inspired you to actually write or direct or, create this film about Hurricane Katrina, about the community who's rebuilding afterwards, and specific to the main character, the volunteer who's befriending a hallucinogenic alcoholic? What inspired all of this? Like, did you live in New Orleans? Like, did you have any, do you have any personal connection to that tragedy and, Hurricane Katrina, everything that came after that?
So, in regards to just making the movie, I was gonna make a religious themed somebody trying to find themselves. Like, I needed to do like a really deep, not coming of age, but I was like somebody like creating religion type movie, no matter what. And then when it was time for me to make that movie, I just based it off of the settings that I was in. I had gone down for a week in college on a spring break type of mission to rebuild, and it was super, super brief. Didn't feel like I was really making a difference. And so after college, I went down there and did long term rebuilding. It's just an organization that rebuilds the lower ninth ward because there were theories that it will never be rebuilt. It was just completely trashed by Hurricane Katrina. And so it kind of depends on these organizations that are rebuilding. And then while I was down there, it's really autobiographical, a lot of it. Like in the very beginning, how she has a problem with the guy that she's rebuilding a house for. He's like sexually harassing her. Like that happened to me. I was just like, if I'm gonna help people, I was just like, I can't do it for people that I do not fuck with. And then it just like it messed with my head because I was just like, am I allowed to make that judgment? I am also volunteering my time. And it was just such a thing where I was just like, am I allowed to be this self-righteous about it? But I'm uncomfortable. I'm not, this is not what they in the brochures they say that it's like. This is so complicated. And then there's some stuff that you want to do, but it's just not your place to do. And I was just like, I need to tell this story. I'm going to blend this in with the creation of religion thing, because that is the big separation. Is there's a huge like doing mission trip religious stuff with the Hurricane Katrina rebuilding. It was not religious when I rebuilt stuff. Like the religious aspect was a completely separate theme that I was running with. But yeah, I lived down there for a couple years, and I'm actually about to move back down there to make my second movie. But yeah.
Well, it is not a small sacrifice to append your life and relocate down there temporarily or however long you were actually down there rebuilding. I think that gives a really unique perspective to the gentleman who is sexually harassing and, you know, giving his fun feedback, as us gals call it in the workplace.
Fun feedback.
That's a really unique perspective too, just because you're there giving so much of your life, so much of your personal you know, you're appending your physical location, you're leaving your home where your roots are at to go down there and help rebuild a community that has been devastated by Hurricane Katrina. I think in our day and age, there are several landmark, you know, natural disasters or terrorist threats or dips in the economy. I'm so tired of living in unprecedented times. I don't know about either of you.
Same. Been
But
done
Hurricane
with it.
Katrina was definitely one of them. So to make the conscientious choice of leaving your roots and even temporarily relocating down to Louisiana to help rebuild after this horrific natural disaster that captured our nation for quite a while. I think it's a really interesting perspective that you captured, and I'm actually really thankful that you decided to capture some of the uncomfortability. I think that is an interesting perspective that a lot of people, specifically people who are not women, that maybe won't be able to relate to that perspective, but might hopefully get some insight into what that is like, you know, whether it's being in your professional field or it's deciding to relocate to a whole different community to help rebuild a community after a horrific natural disaster. Things like that affect us in all walks of life, in all places, regardless as to what you're wearing or what you're asking for or any of that, you know, fun, almost borderline cliche, I guess, things that come with that. So I really appreciate that you took the the conscientious, sorry, I really appreciate that you took the serious creative choice to capture something like that, because I don't think it's something that a lot of people would consider specific to that situation.
Thanks. Yeah, I got a lot of pushback from the organization that I work with for telling that story. And I don't know if they thought that it made just the volunteer work look bad. I'm not trying to make it look bad. I'm just trying to make it look as complicated as it is. And with the synopsis says that she befriends a hallucinating alcoholic. So I did work with some people that were not volunteers, that were there because they were doing some sort of court mandated community service. And I've had a lot of people that, I don't want to call it a bad habit, but I've just attracted and been drawn to people that kind of like, you want to see the best in them, but they've done not great things to themselves and those around them. And that's what the main character is kind of drawn to this new friend, because they kind of bond over the fact that they kind of have a bad attitude doing that work. But I think that what she's doing is she's actually trying to save him too. And just from himself, basically. And that's just basically her in the movie, that everyone that she's trying to meet in her own way, she's trying to pull them up out of themselves and trying to figure out how to do that without being self-righteous and let go and not have control, which I think is, I've never seen told before, but is this really specific human struggle.
Oh, absolutely.
So you said something a while ago about never throwing away your art, but also looking at your art with like a years later, like almost skill set. And I think that that's something that like should be, I guess, more common with artists. I know for me, when I think about everything I know now, and this is like a car guy moment, but everything I know now, if I knew half of that when I was younger, I don't know where I would be now, and what things I would have been able to accomplish, and what stylistic choices I would have been able to make and do on my own and not feel like we're unobtainable. And I think that, for you, in the sense of doing like the behind the scenes thing, I've personally, like, I know a little bit about video editing. I dabbled in it. My computers were never strong enough to really do it. So like it's always becoming like I can do some quick edits, make stuff look cool on my phone, because your phone is, with the right apps, as a supercomputer depending on what you're trying to edit. But for me, watching another artist honing their craft while also teaching other people how to do this, it's just such a like a cool concept. Like what really pushed you to not only like do them, but actually like manifest them into existence and sharing them?
Um, I'm looking at the people that I look up to, especially people who do stuff independent of the industry. And I just consume as much content as I can just because I just need to know. And then when I've like realized that I have so much knowledge that I have never seen anybody do, I need to put that out there. And yeah, with the gatekeeping, I don't understand why people do that. I want to see shit that's not mine. That's good. If I can help, let me do that. Like, and I also want to take power away from the industry. There are these like big budget things that have no heart, no story, that are just getting pumped out because they can, and they have to because it's a business. And I'm gonna sound like such a hipster, but like there's so much stuff that's beloved that would never pass a pitch meeting now. Like something like Edward Scissorhands would be so weird. No one would publish that now if you hadn't heard. You know what I mean?
That's
And
such a good point.
right. And I'm just like, now that equipment is very much so available. It's insane how quick it's becoming available too. I really think that quality stuff that you can't even tell that it's not studio made is really close to being pumped out here in the next couple of years, but people just need to know that it's possible and that the resources are easier to get than you think.
Yeah. Partially you're a guinea pig because Caitlin and I haven't done too many interviews together, so we're trying to figure out who's going to fire a question at you. But you brought up equipment, and I have to ask this question only because like 2 weeks ago, maybe, and if not even, it might have been while we were watching movies over like our Thanksgiving break. But we were talking about drones and how much drones have revolutionized filmmaking, but also independent filmmaking because now the quality of the camera is decent. The affordability of that camera and that drone is within reach for some people. And I just wonder, for you, like how much has that kind of technology and accessibility, like if you had that level of, obtainability when you were first starting out, like what do you think that would have changed? Do you think you would have gone in a different direction as far as, films that you could have made? Or do you feel like you would have, kind of just started the same path just way sooner?
I feel like it would have just changed what I made because I don't think I could have started any sooner. Like Pink Elephant has took me a really long time. And if you would have told like 22-year-old me that 10 years later I'd be working on the same movie, I would have been very upset. But now I'm looking back at it and I'm just like, no, you know what? Like I did my 10,000 hours doing one project. I actually now, and 22-year-old me would hate me for this, but I would rather that happen than me have pumped out as much as I could and had more projects under my belt than just one that I really just polished. Because now this next one is going to be like worlds away from Pink Elephant. But having something like a drone, oh my gosh, I would have loved to have a drone on Pink Elephant. That was not possible in 2015. I think it was a couple years. When would that have been? I think it was like 2018. As soon as I saw DJI's first like miniature, like really affordable drone, I got that for my wedding business. I think I put it the second I saw the ad for it, because it's the same brand as the stabilizer that I use, and I just as soon as they announced it, I had that on back order. I was like, this is such a game changer. And
Yeah.
now there's a couple drones that are so good, you don't even need to fly them. Like, I think one of my assistants and I, we were holding it because they have such a smooth swivel that you can just do those like walking through rooms, like real estate type photography. And you would never know that it's a drone. It's just so beautiful. But yeah, having equipment like that it would have just changed the quality of the stuff that I made and made it look a lot higher budget. Um, because higher budget is a look. That's what my favorite review of Pink Elephant, but it was such an insult at the same time. Like people on Reddit when I had posted because I was being gutsy and I like posted the trailer and people had said like some people just like, oh, it looks like low budget piece of shit or whatever, and I was just like, I titled it, it's a no budget project, like I told you that, so shut up. But then other people were just like, this isn't no budget, and they were getting into an argument about like how you can actually call it a no budget film up to $1 million, and I was just like, this is so
What?
unfair. Yeah, you can technically, and I can't stand it. I watch those like roundtable, the Hollywood Reporter roundtables all the time, like especially the screenwriter and directors ones. And some guy was just like, I'm used to working on low budget films like $5 million. And I was like, shut up. Shut
I'm sorry.
no. Like, my movie costs, and I'm really open with how much my stuff costs too. just because people need those numbers when they're looking at making stuff. And I'm just like, no, mine was truly, truly no budget. We did a crowdsource just because I tried everything. Like when you're trying to make a project like this, try everything. And even if you get something, even if you did decent crowdfunding, keep going. Like try for more grants, try for everything up until you're actually, not even until you're actually shooting, because you can get grants for post. So just keep trying to get as much as you possibly can the whole time. So we got $1,000 for our crowdfunding. All of that was just craft services. I just went to Costco. We got $1,000 worth of food. And then the rest of everything else was just volunteer work, because every single person that worked on it was doing it because they needed that resume and that real work for that. I've been in a feature before. So it was just really good timing for everybody. And it was just everybody was on the same level. And what the movie cost me, besides my time, besides 10 years of my life, was me buying a computer and buying the camera. So I want to say that was about $5,000 that I paid off over a couple of years. So mine was actually no budget.
Holy crap. That's definitely not 5 milli.
No, it isn't. Love how that, like, I don't know what to call mine if low budget is $5 million.
You
Just
literally
like,
say in a video that you posted 3 months ago, location scouting for a no budget indie film. And when we say no budget, we mean
we were like going through fences. I haven't released that episode yet, but we were like squeezing through fences, trespassing everywhere that we went to make that movie.
Perfect. That's wonderful. So for you as a creative, Matt and I have had some animated discussions about this, maybe more off camera than on. What is your perspective about AI and how it is changing the industry for filmmakers and maybe for content creators too, for podcasters? I know for me as a podcast content creator, I'm thankful for AI to maybe ease back some of the strain of editing and all of that. But in your perspective, as somebody who's far more creative and way smarter for all of those things than I am, what is your perspective on AI, and maybe how that has changed in the last year too, since your last interview with Matt?
I only just started thinking about AI, and my opinion of it is that it really creeps me out. I don't like it. It's like Black Mirror episode that I'm not liking it. But you're right. The parts that I do like about it is now, if something like CapCut counts as, like you edit for TikTok videos, if that counts as AI, because it is just editing templates, those are great, because as a small business, like what I do is shooting weddings. I've been able to pump out so many little videos so quickly. I used to edit a wedding and I could make like 5 advertisements, and I was just like, that's as much time as I can allow myself to spend on this. Now I just export a bunch of all my favorite clips from that wedding, and then I can just sit there on my phone and run them through CapCut templates, and I've been putting one out every day. And the amount of followers and attention and like leads that I get for my business through that is so significant, because I've completely cut out having to just my time. Otherwise I wouldn't have the time to sit there and do those ads. But now I do. But as far as being a creative I think that it's getting really dangerous now that I've seen how they can make someone look, it's indistinguishable from a person recording a video now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super dangerous and taking away from actual creatives, actual people with like soul and something to say. And I think it's just going to be this robotic way of just pushing the industry and whatever needs to be made for profit forward. And that's starting to get creepy to me. It's just season 6, episode 1 of Black Mirror.
No, I totally feel that. And that was one of the reasons why I was paying attention to the actor strike so much, the writer's strike, and following that, the actor strike that resolved after the writer's strike in LA, SAG and all of those union decision makers that met all of these huge heads of corporations at the table to try and negotiate terms of these actors of, we do not want to lose our likeness to artificial intelligence. It was one of those things in the contract where, like, if you want to be a generic background actor for an unlimited number of projects, then you just come to the studio and record and film your voice, your face, your body, and all these other different positions. Definitely one of the biggest reasons that I paid attention to all of that, and especially paying attention to the specific language of the agreements that were met after a record breaking, like 3-4 months of pickets and protests, and we're just now starting to go into the downfall of what happens when an industry is stagnant because of protests. So
Right.
are there any movies coming out in theaters that I'm super excited for in the next 12 months? Probably not. But power to the people, power to unions, and especially people who are trying not to lose their individuality to artificial intelligence and all of those that might bring great ease of editing and content creation and all those things with artificial intelligence. ChatGPT is one of my BFFs. I'll straight up own it. But there's a difference between using ChatGPT as a source of inspiration versus using artificial intelligence to completely reimpose or recreate a person's likeness,
Right.
to be like a background or even main actor. I don't know. There have been all kinds of what are they called? Where like they put the politicians' faces and they like reimpose all of it, and it's like super convincing video, but it's completely
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
completely fake, right?
Right.
So yeah, I was just very curious about your perspective of that from a career-long creative. Definitely aligns with mine.
The writer's one is still bizarre to me. I can't believe that they think that AI can write scripts. Because I don't know if they're already doing that, but too many shows I see now, and it's like, I know that I love TikTok and it's probably killing my attention span a little bit, but it's not that bad because I can still watch movies that I haven't seen, but it's usually stuff that's kind of older will grab my attention and keep me. Stuff now rarely keeps me, and I'm sitting there like thinking that I have like some sort of attention deficit, and I'm just like, I don't think it is. I really think it's this weird lack of soul. And if you're paying attention, sometimes there's just shows where it's almost just like they're like, all right, say whatever you want and action, and there's no story anymore. And I really think that these are the ones that the AIs are writing. They're not words.
I've seen that with like blog posts and other content that AI or specifically ChatGPT has put out, and I'm like, I feel like it's almost like a second instinct where like you can tell like a human didn't write this. Like the tone of it is just not flowing. It's not very organic, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I think that's just a milestone for where the technology is at right now. Give it another few years. Absolutely. It will be indistinguishable from regular humans and their creative voice and the voice that they have while they're writing. So I really appreciate your perspective because I totally agree. I think at this point, maybe the technology is limited, but that's just, look at the film industry and how much it's changed even in the last 10 years, specific to like Netflix. Like I still remember getting DVDs shipped to me in the mail in an envelope.
That was a thing.
Right? Netflix used to mail us DVDs, and now it's a whole ass we're going to charge you a crap ton more because now we're introducing ads on the platform. Like, if you look at how much that industry and that specific platform has changed in 10 years, who knows where AI is going to be specific to the field of creatives and putting out creative content is going to be even in the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So from AI to what you got coming up next. When we last spoke, you were doing location scouting and you were really jazzed about that. And I remember talking to you about, you know, whether or not you let the location speak to you or if you try and find the location based off of writing. But how did location scouting go? And you said you were possibly moving to get ready to film again. So what we got going on?
I think I'm gonna have to rewrite the script. I wrote it so specifically for Philly. I wanted to shoot it like in this around the same region that I grew up in, and I just don't think it's gonna. I don't know. I had written the script for um the Philadelphia Film Commission, like a competition that I sent in 2 years in a row. I got nothing. And I was just like, okay, fine. I tried to like kiss so much ass trying to make it so Philly specific. And I think that we're just going to change it to New Orleans now. I don't know why. I'm just getting a weird feeling. And whatever smoothly happens, that's what's going to happen. But if we do end up shooting in Philly and New Jersey, we do have all the locations already pinned out. But yeah, my old roommate from Philly, one of my friends, just she works for M. Night Shyamalan, and she just came back
Casual.
here from I was so excited. Like, she's doing so good. Shout out to my friend Nikki Cash, because she, when Knock at the Cabin, the credits rolled, she was so high up. I was just like, I'm so proud.
That's awesome.
But yeah, she like made me cry like a month ago. Just sent me this message because she's had nothing to do because the writer's strike affects her also. She's been living in Spain and she couldn't come back here because there has been no Hollywood work across America. But she was just asking me just out of nowhere, what are you doing next and how do we get this started? And what we're just trying to do right now is just figure out how to get as much for this next one as possible, because it just feels redonkulous that I would have to start from scratch because I've made an entire feature film already. And I'm just trying to that's where I am right now, just trying to get savvy about who to put this in front of to be like, I've done this for nothing. Like, this is going to happen no matter what. I just want it to be the biggest thing that it possibly can be.
Absolutely.
And so she helped me figure out like a bunch of places. There's a really cool place called Graffiti Pier. I think it's called Graffiti Pier in Jersey that we were going to shoot at. But yeah, if we end up shooting in New Orleans, I'm going to have to totally redo it. But that's my favorite city in the world. And it will make a difference that I've not been there in years. They actually, historically, I don't know if you know this, fun old Hollywood fact, is if you pay attention, a lot of movies have cinematographers that are foreign, or our cinematographers will do other countries' movies, because it's a trick that you'll see things very different to a place that you're not native of. And so you'll film it in a way more creative way than anybody else will.
That's so cool.
So I get my biggest inspiration for location scouts if I have not been to a place in a while. So I'm excited. I haven't been back to Philly or New Orleans, and either one of those cities will shoot. And yeah, so it looks like I'm about to move back to New Orleans, and I'll start looking and see if we're going to shoot there.
Well, that is perfect for the last question before the this or that. And that is, where would you love to be a year from now if this is a year from back then?
Ooh. Oh my gosh, I have such big plans for this year. um, I would like to have filmed this next movie from a year from now. Um, Honestly, I am putting it out into the universe that I want to be living a life that is completely indistinguishable from anything that I've ever known before. Like, just because
Hell
of
yeah.
this year and having kicked my ass in my near-death experience from from right before the last time I was on this show, I'm just like, it has made me just most of the fears that I have are just gone, and I'm just like, all right, it's time. Like anything that I thought was later needs to happen now. Just I'm ready for it. I'm not sitting on it being like life is going to happen later, maybe someday this. And so yeah, this next year I have a lot of stuff that I have, but the big one is I want to have finished filming that movie and I want it to be big.
I love that. I hope that that happens. And this is one of my favorite, like, kind of, I think only creatives will like appreciate it. But Keith Urban, it's like one of my favorite quotes. And whenever I think like, I don't know where I want to go or what I want to do or what's going to happen, the quote comes back to my mind. And he said, you know, I'm ready to bleed for my art. I'm ready to do whatever I have to do for my art. So in the end, like if I'm going to be a starving artist, let's start the starving, like because I
Ooh.
want to get there. And that just always hits
Mhm.
home because it's like yeah, right now I don't care what happens between now and
Mhm.
then, but I want to get there and I want to be in a drastically different place now. And the only way to
Mhm.
get there is to just take that first step. Let's get
Right.
started. Let's do it. So I love that.
That's another reason why I wanted to do that. The making of Pink Elephant was just as important to me as the movie itself, because one of the things that people really stop themselves from making their art is that they think that their life circumstances are not perfect for it. And I don't know why it's wired in my brain that I'm just like, this is exactly what I'm doing and nothing's ever going to stop me. But when I tell the story of like what was happening to me at the times that I was making this movie, it's like horror stories and it's excuses that people use that would stop them from making their art. Like, I don't know, just I don't know, anything, but I'm just like, no matter what is happening to you, live a life holistically as an artist in which you have what your point of living is, which is to be making that project no matter what is happening. And sure, like you might have some setbacks or stuff that kind of delays you a little bit, but you always have to keep your eyes on the prize and be moving forward and do not let it sit for too long.
Love that. Yep.
Well, if that's not a decent kick in the ass from a fellow creative, I don't know what is. Damn, that's awesome. I said it on my Instagram story right before we sat down to interview. If you want to root for an underdog, root for a creative, and I wholeheartedly mean that. That's awesome.
Yeah, we love that sentiment here, and that's another one of the like feedbacks that like I got from your episode and I get from any creative that I know that listens to that episode, and they're just like, man, I listened to that episode and I can't not be inspired now. Like I have to do something.
You
And
have to.
I even get somebody that says every once in a while they go back and they'll just like replay, like they I assume they screen recorded or something. And they just play like a couple of clips from it. They won't tell me what the clips are, but they tell me that there's just a couple of clips that they love to go back to because it's inspiring. So I
That
just
makes me
love
so
that.
happy. Yes.
Hopefully there's more sound bites from this one too.
That's what I'm
So
doing.
Well,
I'm
if
out
you're
here
truly
suffering. So
if you're
everyone
truly a
else can run.
creative, it feels like it's got to be something that you just have to eject out of your body, and you're not going to be content until that product or that art is like out into the world for other people to consume. So I
Mhm.
really appreciate you keeping your nose to the grindstone and staying true to your own creative journey, because that is super admirable. I think after that much time, other people would be like, well, maybe I need to leave this project alone or move on to the next thing or whatever. So huge props to you for keeping your keeping your heart in the right place and putting out an end product that you are super, super proud of. I think a lot of people can take that to heart and use it for their own inspiration. I'm
Thank
definitely inspired after hearing your perspective.
Thanks. That means so much. Thank you.
All right, so we got the this or that. So the first one, making a film abroad or somewhere local but historical. And you know how hard it is to get into
Ooh.
somewhere historical, so
I
yeah, I
think
wasn't gonna make it
local.
easy.
I think local, but historical.
Yeah, I figured you would go that way.
Yeah.
That's just it's just something about, especially like if your original spot was like wanting to do Philly and you've already recorded in New Orleans, like yeah, that seems like the right thing.
Yeah, the amount
But
of stories that I can think to do in Pennsylvania alone is I already have lists on lists, so that one, yeah.
yeah. All right. Next one. A dream cast or dream equipment?
Ooh. It burns. Ugh. I'm gonna have to say cast. Just because I think that I could get, like, I've already proven that I can do it. Nobody ever believes me that I shot like most of the things I've ever shot on a GH4. Even when I tell people that know cameras, they're just like, "Do you mean the GH5?" I'm just like, "No, I don't. The one that was like a practice run for the GH5." And there's also movies like, I love Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and it's a perfect movie, but it's just like the resolution of it is, they even made it kind of grainier just stylistically, and now that it's aging, it you would never think that it's old just because Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey are just brilliant, and in both of the aesthetics of that entire piece is just great. But something that looks like that could be shot so easily by anybody now. So I'm gonna have to say cast.
Yeah, and you know why you say that? Because you're a true artist. It's not about the bag; it's about the art itself. So yeah, I love that. And this one, the last one, it's a little selfish, and don't worry, you're not going to hurt my feelings. But
Okay.
helping me finish my script or starting a new one with no real idea ready, you just go with it.
How about you finished your script? I would never start anything not knowing where I'm going with it.
You see
Yeah.
how I trapped you into that one?
You did.
That's a
you did.
true friend right there.
You
All
did,
right.
you did trap me into that one, but also I would never, like, no, I have the movie in my head, like, start to finish. Granted, it will go through 5 different, the script that I'm writing now, the beginning end of it is like the first 15 pages. Like, it got pushed all the way up. Like, it got new endings like the further it went, but I will never start something without pretty much knowing where I want it to go.
I'm the same way, so I feel that I don't think I could start something and be like haphazard. Like
Right.
maybe it takes me new places that I wasn't planning on going as we go, but like definitely I need to know where it is.
Right.
And like a shameless plug for myself, I haven't written in a really long time. I've been like whatever, feeling the feelings and whatnot. And the other day I decided to jump back on my blog and wrote a post about like being lonely and what like loneliness feels like. And I got so much like positive response for it. I was like, damn it, I think I need to write again. So
There you go. There's your omen.
yeah, exactly.
That's
So
good.
it's a full circle thing, because
Yeah.
now talking to you, I have to be inspired to write. You know what I mean? So, and we got another writer sitting over here who is also supposed to be writing. So, are you writing, friend?
I am writing. I'm writing more blog posts. I am working on a super off topic, off of anything that I've done memoir wise, manuscript. But other than that, I'm just here surviving toddler years of motherhood. That's all I got.
And that's all we got, because it's the end of the episode. So thank you for being back again a year later, and hopefully, you know, everything is swimmingly well, not only when this episode drops, but also a year and beyond from now for you, my dear friend.
I'm so honored to be you guys' repeat guest. This is so awesome.
Please, all of our listeners, go check out Pink Elephant. It is out now on YouTube. We will happily link it in our description. Give her a like and a follow on YouTube, Instagram, all of our other social media platforms, TikTok as well. All of that will be linked in the description. We adore you, and we will catch you next week on the Holmes Room Podcast.
Bye. The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.